I am Sananda. There are many things which people believe because they have been told to believe it by someone in a position of greater power than they. We should probably say greater perceived power, since power over another person is always an illusion. No one can actually force you to believe something unless you choose to, no matter how they might torture you or prod you. Of course, it is easier to convince children to believe what they are told. This is why religions of all kinds try to enlist the children from birth, even threatening that an infant not baptized or initiated into the church cannot go to heaven. Why would anyone want to join a church that makes them feel frightened much the time? Why would anyone want to give over their children to a group of people who use fear to control them? Simply threatening dire consequences later in life would not be enough to convert most people who live in the moment without much concern for the distant future, especially the unknown future after death. There had to be much more powerful mind control strategies at work. In order to become a pawn to others' ideas, one must be afraid for one's present survival. The most primitive of fears goes back to the days of cave dwelling in difficult conditions. It is the fear of starvation. Let me explain how this fear is used to control the entire planet. In areas where resources are either limited or can be taken over and controlled by bribing the leaders of an area or country, the Dark Hats have bought up and brought under their control vast areas of the world and its precious resources. This includes food, water, and energy products. Those who could not be completely controlled this way, like the smaller European countries, were convinced to join the European Union, where they would be even more relentlessly at the mercy of creditors, the same Dark Hats, who would eventually gain a stranglehold by manipulating markets, encouraging debt, and then squeezing them economically. Debt holders becomes master once the enslaved country can no longer pay its debts because of the market manipulations which make financial stability impossible. In a world where prosperity is supposedly based on economic growth, the population has been lured into believing that a job which brings in money is the key to success and security. This is the big lie. The loss of that job leaves a person vulnerable to financial hardship. In the most extreme cases, it might mean hunger or homelessness. In the tiniest minority of the population of extremely disabled or mentally ill people, although even then, social programs in most advanced countries provide a minimally effective social net so that no one actually needs to go hungry. Homelessness, having to sleep in the cold, is avoided by the provision of shelters and soup kitchens. These are not especially desirable accommodation, but they do mean that starvation for most, though all not, of the people on the globe is a thing of the past. In places where hunger is widespread, it can be traced directly to the callousness and greed of those in power. You see, Mother Earth is generous in her provision for her children. There is not a lack of food to feed all. There is a lack of will to care for all. This is the darkness which I now ask you to banish from the planet. The era when looking out for number one was not seen as horrifically immoral attitude is over. You are your brother's keeper, as he is yours. No one actually gains material success without the help of the whole society. There is no such thing as self-made man. All citizens benefit from the stability of their governments, their infrastructure, and the service of their fellow citizens who train themselves to be teachers, ambulance drivers, firefighters, farmers, and poets. Yes, I did say poets. What Philistine invented the idea that every artist should be able to create a profitable product, and if they cannot do so, they are not worth paying attention to. How would the greatest minds in history have survived had it not been for mentors, kings, and patrons who fed and clothed them so they could do their real work, which was to create inspiring works to uplift their fellow humans? As their populations have grown, and the funds you have contributed to provide for your own infrastructure, schools and security services have grown exponentially and has been a simple matter for greed and selfishness to infiltrate every political and moral discussion. Rather than provide emotional security for all, the contribution of the many has been used to redistribute the wealth, the resources, and the promise of security to the very few at the top. This is not democracy, nor it is the true way. As everyone knows, the Golden Rule has been cornerstone of spiritual teachings across the globe and throughout history. There are many variations on this basic teaching, but for our purposes here, we will begin with the familiar English version. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. This captures the spirit of the thought. I would like to expand this to provide a motto for ascension, the raising of your electromagnetic vibration to the high fifth dimension. Do others, do unto others only what you would have done to you. Now, for those who are mired in a habit of self-loathing and self-criticism, this motto will not provide the proper impetus for change. We must expand the meaning to include love of the self, something many ignore when building their moral philosophical foundation. We must begin with, do unto yourself as you would have others do unto you. You see, this lack of the most basic love for yourself is the source of all unpleasant relationships, ongoing personal conflicts, depression, and pain. You have chosen people who will treat you the way you treat yourself. You will see with the same Juandai's eye you cast on yourself, and you are at war with them as you are with yourself. It is time to put an end to the self-loathing and despair which has been taught by all the major religions in some form. Self-flagellation and self-deprivation in the presence of plenty is not an indication of superiority or goodness. Neither is great wealth. Religious practices based on expanding one's self-importance are fueled by feelings of inadequacy. Feeling of self-doubt and inadequacy are nothing more or less than a lack of faith and a misunderstanding of the I am present, which is God. God loves all equally. There are no exceptions, not even for you. By insisting you are less deserving or more deserving than others, you are putting yourself above God, who does not agree with you. God is love. God is light. Love is light. Love is peace, joy, harmony, laughter, compassion, forgiveness, and kindness. God is all these things, therefore God is pure love. There is no vengeance, no punishment, nor any threat of disapproval, or any other dark judgment in God's love. This is the mythology of the past, and it is a misunderstanding of what God feels toward his or her children. Some of you have understood well that the reason I came to earth was to teach love, God's love, my love, and the love of one another. I am love because I am God, just as you are. You have only to discover the power of love you carry in your soul, and you will shine with the uplifting energy of light. This light comes from the central sun, our prime creator, who is the creator of all creators, and therefore is the power of one. You are made in the image, not the physical image, but the soul image of your creator. Therefore, you are one. The power of creation. These are not just words designed to comfort you or ease your low self-esteem. They are truth. All humans have the power of creation within them, no matter what their race, religion, age, gender, IQ, or social position. All can manifest the dream of their hearts if they only have faith in their own power. Only faith gives you this power to create, a faith based on and the knowledge that you are one with God, just as you are one with all conscious being in the entire cosmos. When you join with your own power, the power of all creation, you have at your behest all the legions of heaven and all the sources of the cosmos, for all conscious being in the fifth dimension and above live by universal law, and understand the meaning of being one with you, even when you do not understand it yourself. They are here to serve you of their own volition and they revel in the joy of helping you to raise yourself up to the light. There are no darkness beings anywhere in the cosmos above the sixth level of the fifth dimension. No darkness can survive in the light-filled electromagnetic environment of the higher dimension. The beings in the heavens are light workers, as dedicated spiritual heavy lifters among you call themselves. This does not mean that there are no dark ones in the cosmos. Of course there are. They have been creating the current imbalance condition by lurking in the fourth dimensional levels throughout your long history of darkness on planet Earth. They were attracted by the chaos and damage created by the traumatic fall of Atlantis, and they have been spreading their misery with the alacrity for thousands of years. It was our job, dear ones, to defeat the dark and to establish the paradise on earth which has been our shared vision since the beginning of this earth project, who chose to descend into the dangerous territory where darkness thrives and to bring back the light with the efforts of our own dedicated hearts. We have done this. We are already well on our way to accomplishing the ascension of all humankind. It remains only to awaken those who are still asleep, lured by the third dimensional teachings which promise satiation rather than fulfillment of their spiritual path. Now you see the full circle pictures, do you not? Humankind is exhausted not by waiting for God to appear and fix the miserable situation on the planet. They are exhausted by fear, by anxiety, by hatred of themselves and one another, and worst of all, by the deprivation of being separated from their own soul connection to God. We must show by our own example that love is all you need. As the famous song goes, I bring you this message at this time because the ship is upon you. We understand your reluctance to change your ways, to leave behind the familiar even if those familiar circumstances often bring you despair and frustration. I assure you that by making the transition to a higher vibrational level, you have everything to gain and nothing to lose. Those you have loved will be cared for and nurtured on their path to ascension. They will be provided with loving and compassionate teaching and support until they are reassured and satisfied that lifting themselves out of the present shades of gray will bring joy and exhilaration such as they have never imagined. You will not lose the people you care for, just the opposite. You will each find a new identity in the light and love you will experience when you open your heart and mind to fulfill the destiny of the joint agreements which brought you here for this lifetime. This is what you have lived and died for in many past lifetimes, dear ones. You are indeed at the threshold of the promised land. Will you step across into the light? Will you spread your wings and take flight? You will find the fuel for your engine right there in your heart. It is in turn fueled by the love of your higher self, God. I am an individuated reflection of the One, but that does not mean I am separate. No one can ever be alone or separate. This is a delusion taught by the dark ones to instill fear. You do not need your other half or a partner to sustain you or the approval of your peers to find ecstatic happiness. You only need to accept the conduit which connects you more completely than an infant's umbilical cord connects to the source of light, which is the mother. Allow the presence of God, which is love and light, to flow through you, to heal and nourish every wound, every painful experience, every expression of illness from this life and every other. Allow yourself to expand to fill your body and the aura around you with love and light. It will shine outward from you into the atmosphere around you, lifting the spirit of everyone who comes within your presence. Do not turn away from this brilliant destiny. Accept the mantle of goodness and light which is your birthright. Come with me, dear friends. It is our time. I am Sananda, Jesus, who live for love. I have returned to show you the way home.